The program has definitely grown and evolved.
This program is 25 years old today.
We are starting to have, on a daily basis, conversations around race and ethnicity that do also include the Asian American and Pacific Islander diasporas.
Hi, could you start by introducing your name, your role at Penn?
I'm David Ng. I am Richard L. Fisher Professor of English and Asian American Studies. I'm also in Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies and Comparative Literature.
Yeah, so in your experience teaching students at Penn, how have you seen the way that Asian American Studies has impacted their lives?
I have been teaching since the Qing Dynasty, so about 3,000 years. No, just kidding. Qing Dynasty is 1911. I've been teaching for 25 years, Angela, and every time I teach the Intro to Asian American Lit and Culture, I have seen students in my class, Asian and otherwise, I see their lives transformed because so much of what happens in your life, you do have no vocabulary to understand because you don't have a history and you don't have a critical vocabulary. And that's what I try to teach in the class. And I see students take that no matter what their major is, no matter what year they are, no matter what profession they go into. I see them take that and bring it with them. And that's how we're going to enact change over time.
Yeah, so looking towards the future, what advice would you have for your students who are maybe going to graduate and eventually enter their own careers?
The knowledge that they learn in these classes will be useful for the rest of their lives, no matter what profession they're in. And we have talked about this. You and I are in class together. All of the debate around affirmative action is about college admissions and elite college admissions. Asian Americans graduate from elite colleges in high numbers. But when you look at what happens after they graduate and where their careers go, Asian Americans are the least likely to be promoted into management in no matter what profession you're talking about. Okay, so the affirmative action debate actually should be relocated not to the issue of college admissions, but to the issue of the workplace. And so I'm hoping to equip all of you with those skills to understand what is happening to you once you graduate and you go out there.
And we all appreciate you more for that.
You're very welcome.
Yes. Another question, reflecting a little bit more on the history of Asian American Studies, specifically at Penn, what are some of the themes you've observed and what are some of the lessons you've learned?
The lessons I've learned are you must persist. This program is 25 years old today. As I said, we're officially a Pisces. And this program has had many successes, but it's also had to struggle for resources, for faculty, for space, for budget. And so we need to take the momentum that has been established for the last 2.5 decades, and we have to continue to grow. This is the moment. We have to seize it. The administration has made a renewed commitment to the program. Hopefully we will have more than double the faculty come this time next year. And so we are now unstoppable.
Hi, could you start by introducing your name and your role at Penn?
Sure. Hi, my name is Faria Khan. I'm the co-director of Asian American Studies.
Yeah, so let's start with the history of ASAM. How have you seen the program evolve over the years and what are some lessons you've learned from it?
So, this is actually my 15th year. I've had the pleasure of celebrating the 10th, 15th, 20th, and now the 25th. And the program has definitely grown and evolved. I would say the undergraduate advisory board has become a much stronger force in terms of student activism. We have diversified our course offerings. We now have a research fellowship, and we have 2 speaker series, which also allows us to, push some of the intellectual conversations. And it also allows us to engage with the student community. This year, we also launched 2 new podcasts. So we have another medium for students to explore the history and the life of Asian Americans. And so the program has definitely grown. I would say as well in my 15 years that the community has become much stronger. We've rallied around some very difficult moments. And, as I mentioned earlier, I think that our history has been one of struggle, but it's also been one of resiliency.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know there are a lot of exciting things in store for the long-term future of ASAM because we can start planning for that. So maybe what are some of those long-term goals?
Sure. So the university has really stepped up to offer their support, and that means in terms of growing the program. And so we will be welcoming in the next year or so 3 to 4 new full-time faculty in Asian American Studies in the departments of History, Sociology, and English. And this will have an enormous impact for us because it will allow us to offer a set number of courses so that students can actually take a major, not just a minor. We will be able to offer more research opportunities. There will be more opportunities for mentorship. We will be able to not only just expand into a major, but also we will be able to, now actually do more work with the Philadelphia community with real tangible partnerships. I hope that we will be able to welcome some postdocs to diversify our course offerings as well. There is so much potential for us. It's actually very exciting.
Yeah, that's really great. In terms of, since you also teach ASAM classes, how have you seen your classes or other ASAM classes impact the lives of students?
So I think this particular anniversary is a testament to that because so many alums have come back and, every time I called an alum and said, can you help me with this? They did, right? And so our alums created a podcast. Our alums, hosted the speaker series on Wednesday nights. They formed a committee to help us plan this particular event and to connect with other alums. And so that actually has been incredibly powerful. And that has been so uplifting to me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we know, ASAM is not just classes, but it's also the community. So are there any specific moments or relationships that have really showcased the value of ASAM as a community to you?
So, yes, I think that if you were able to join us today, or if you can watch the conferences today, the panels are really a testament to students' devotion to the program, right? I think the other testament is the exhibit, which I hope we'll be able to digitize, and so it'll be accessible for everyone after this particular event. I think if you look through the materials, they are a shining example of the persistence, the drive, the deep dedication that students have had for Asian American studies, and how meaningful it has been for them during their time at Penn.
Hi, my name is Lily. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Evelyn Gong.
What year did you graduate from Penn and what did you study?
I graduated in 2002 and I studied international relations and what's now known as East Asian languages and civilizations. I also had a minor in political science.
Wow, you studied a lot. So how is it now looking back at Penn and Penn's ASAM program now, years later?
I am so proud about what the Penn community has done with ASAM. We have really come a long way, and we're now celebrating our 25th anniversary, and that's something that makes me very proud and happy.
What are you most proud of when you were part of ASAM, and now looking at the current ASAM situation, what are you proud of the current students about?
I think, well, first of all, I'm very impressed with the students, and I'm so astounded by their activism and their enthusiasm to be engaged in the community, in the Penn community. I think the faculty is equally strong as well. And it's really a joy to be a part of this community.
What was your favorite ASAM moment?
I don't know that I have one favorite ASAM moment, but the first semester, my first semester in college, I took a writing seminar on Asian American literature and self-identity, and that was a wonderful class, in part because it was a safe space, and I actually have a lot of really close friends who were my classmates in that course, and so we are still good friends to this day. I graduated 20 years ago, and some of my very, very closest friends are from that course.
Wow, that's amazing. So after looking at the past and living through the current present, what are you hoping for ASAM's future?
I would love for ASAM to be a major that is offered to students, and I would love to see the faculty grow in numbers and in seniority. And I'd love to see a whole bunch of Asian American as well as other students at Penn be actively engaged in the classes.
Hi, I'm Lily. Can I please have your name?
My name is Kusum Soin.
So what has your relationship been with ASAM?
I was hired in 2001. I was the first administrative assistant of Asian American Studies and Pan Asian American House. My job was divided in two departments. And I worked with under Rose and Roche, and that time Patch director used to report to ASAM director. So I worked like putting students in the system, those who are graduating from Asian American Studies program, and also worked with the Pan Asian American Community Service. So when I joined ASAM and Patch, I was a very shy person. But these students, I learned from these students so much. I admire them.
That's amazing. So how is it now coming back almost 20 years later, over 20 years later, now at the 25th anniversary of ASAM? What does that feel like being there from the beginning to now the current day?
Okay. So I attended all the anniversaries of ASAM, and I helped also a little bit, like back of the scene. The program is amazing. There is so much energy. So every day I learn from students, because I was born in 50s. The time was totally different. There was no internet, no Google, nothing. But I learn everything from these students, and whenever I come to ASAM program, I feel the energy and want to go back and take classes, and I'm working on that.
No, that's amazing. You're just described as like the Patch mom, and it seems like you have some really deep connections with the people here. So how has ASAM been like as a family to you, even now as you've taken steps away from Penn?
First of all, first thing I'll say, Dr. Faria Khan is amazing. She's a good friend of mine. We really connect together, and we talk to each other if I need any advice or if she needs any advice from me, and we work together all the time. I didn't understand.
No, that's great. I love Dr. Khan as well. She's such a superwoman. I mean, you can see just with this conference itself, she's done such an amazing job.
Yeah, she has a knack. She says, let's do it. And everyone says, okay, I will help you. I'll come and do it for you.
So you've been with ASAM since the beginning. You're seeing it unfold now. What are your hopes for ASAM in the future?
So as I heard that there are 3 more positions they will be hiring, which is a great news, because since Dr. Cow left, there was a lot of struggle. I saw students like with the big speakers talking in front of President House when they stopped the funding. I mean, although since 2001, so many petitions got signed up and students' rallies. I remember all those moments, and I'm attending Wednesday series also. I'm very well connected with the alumni, and I still keep, whenever I go to New York, San Francisco, I send them emails. Okay, I'm coming, and then we do parties. So I was in Hawaii last year, and Dr. Zuma was visiting. So I invited some alumni and we had a dinner with Dr. Zuma in Hawaii.
So what's your favorite ASAM memory?
There are so many, it's a tough question. There are so many memories, but going to Food for Thought, learning from different speakers, and inviting alumni back, and they talk about their experience.
Hi, could you start by introducing your name and your role at Penn?
Eiichiro Zuma, I'm a professor of history and interim co-director of Asian American Studies program.
Wow, thank you for your continued commitment to Asian American Studies. During your time as professor, how have you seen the way that your classes and the content from Asian American Studies impacted the lives of students?
Okay, well, so in my introductory course, I tend to have a lot of students from all over the place, even outside the School of Arts and Science. And for them, my class, my history class is the only probably history class to take, partially because of the requirements and all. So some of them actually have no interest whatsoever, right? You kind of sometimes bitter in a way, right? Because this is something they have to take, outside of the whatever they want to learn, right? So that's sort of a challenge. But then I see that as a kind of opportunity to kind of influence at least small number of students, right, through my teaching. And actually, I see some students toward the end of the semester being kind of interested in developing interest in the subject matter. And then that means that they're going to probably start picking up books to read, about Asian Americans to read and so forth, and continue to maybe, learn about this on their own if they want to. So I actually see these sort of, changes in some students in my classes. So I think that's, kind of enjoyment I get from teaching the introductory course especially.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you were going to take one semester-long class and summarize a few of the key points that you really want your students to be able to take away and bring through the rest of their lives, what would some of those lessons be?
So many Asian American students, for obvious reasons, interested in the kind of identity issue, right? It's sort of a self-centered for good reason. Of course, you're interested in about your kind of identity issue, and then the problem you have and so forth, and then think about why they have those problems, and so forth. In this society, very race-conscious society, right? So it's kind of racial identity is always an important kind of part of your life. Usually, a kind of negative thing if you're a racialized minority. So many of the students actually have kind of self-centered kind of interest in their identity issues, and sometimes Asian American studies, particularly Asian American history courses, are kind of sort of way to sort of discover their roots and their identity and so forth, right? Which is, I think, very important for personal development and reasons. But at the same time, I try to actually teach that student that or kind of want them to see they're kind of sort of in a way self-centered interest in their own identity issues, or whatever the problems they think they have being Asian American in this society, are all connected to the larger issues, structural issues, historical issues, and those issues also affect other, especially racialized minorities as well. So in that way, I want students to get to kind of see that the connection to larger societal issues, and then also that create the kind of establish or develop sort of a sense of connection to other marginalized populations in this society. So there are differences and commonalities, and in my history classes, I try to teach both. So we learn about the Asians' experience in the United States, which are different from African Americans or the Latino experience. But at the same time, there are a lot of commonalities as well, right? So I try to kind of teach these things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're living in a pretty unique moment in history right now. So as a history professor and also someone who specializes in Asian American studies, what do you see this current moment as being? Where do you see this future heading?
So I think there's some discussions about this in the panels, but from the historical standpoint, what's going on in basically last 2 years, anti-Asian violence and all that kind of thing, right? This is sort of a deja vu all over again, in my opinion. Like last year, it was 150th year anniversary of the burning of Los Angeles Chinatown, right? And then, mass violence on all that kind of thing. And then year 2000, there was actually sort of a, basically kind of 1899, destruction of entire Chinatown in Honolulu because of the different kind of pandemic. Okay, it was a plague or something like that. Okay, and then following year, San Francisco Chinatown was basically sort of quarantined, and the Chinese immigrants are basically singled out as disease carriers and so forth. Right? That was 1900 in San Francisco. So as a historian, I know about these histories, and then of course there are differences, but then a lot of things about like last 2 years are very much sort of a deja vu all over again to me. So, by learning history, you can sort of learn about the patterns, kind of in terms of the racialization of a particular minority in certain way, in a certain time or certain sort of a context, right? So, and then you can have a sort of a different kind of understanding about the issue. Again, this is not unique. This is a part of the pattern. Then how to deal with this problem we have? Well, then it's, we need to actually kind of look at the cause of this sort of a pattern, right? Which actually we as a group have kind of dealt with in the past like 150 years. So then we need to look at the structural issues and all the legacies of the past racism, white supremacy, and all those things. So I think that the learning of history actually allow us to think about the present day problem in that way. Not just as some kind of sort of accidental thing, right? But it's a part of the pattern, and then pattern is very important part of our society, and it's something we need to actually deal with as a society.
Yeah. That's a really good answer. Now, kind of going a little bit deeper into specifically the history of the Asian American Studies program, because you've been interim director, you've seen it evolve through the years. Can you talk more about that evolution and where you see this specific program at Penn going?
Well, we actually a very important moment where that we can. Well, let me put it this way. So we're going to have like 3 or 4 new faculty members, and those are actually tenured and also the tenure track faculty members. So in a way, that we're going to have sort of a permanent fixtures or additional permanent fixtures in this institution, the professors, right? And the professors are hard to get rid of. So then, the budget cut can happen right away and overnight, and then program can actually shrink. But if you have professors, especially tenured professors, then, you can't really get rid of them, right, so easily. Then, of course, that the professors, Asian American, scholars, we know that what we have to do and what we like to do in the institution, and then we're going to fight for it, right? So then, the fact that we're going to have 3 or 4 more bodies, right, as a fellow Asian American is very important. And we're going to have a stronger, more solid institutional foundation, basically. And that also means we can actually fight for the growth of the program as an institution. Dr. Kang this morning talked about the possibility of, we would like to actually turn that Asian American Studies program into major, right? So, that's just first step. We like to get bigger. And previously, we couldn't even think about those things, right? But now we can actually talk about it, and we can actually basically work toward that goal. And this is, I think, a new situation, and we are very, very happy about this. And we need continuous support from students, of course. And unless that the student actually filled our classrooms, administration can say that, hey, our students are not interested in Asian American Studies, right? So then they can actually cut our budget, or they're not going to listen to our demand for, turning that program into a, major and so forth, right? So we actually need student support even more than before. And the best way to support us is, one way of supporting us is to actually take our courses. And of course, as I already discussed before, and my colleagues also discussed, I'm sure, taking our courses and not just getting sort of a credit on the your transcript. You learn valuable things for your life, for your career. as a person and so forth. So please consider taking our courses. That's a message to our students.
Hi, my name is Lily. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Viraj.
What's your relationship with ASAM?
I served as the Associate Director at the Pan Asian American Community House for many years, and so I partnered with ASAM regularly. I'm also a doctoral student at Penn, and I have taken some classes as independent studies with faculty at ASAM.
What's been your favorite class that you've taken with ASAM?
Ooh, I can't choose. I did independent studies with both Faria and Rupa, and they were truly transformative.
That's amazing. So how have you seen ASAM grow over the past few years? I mean, it's the 25th anniversary, so there's been a lot of growth here. What have you noticed?
I think today was a real testament to the growth. It was just incredible to see the room completely filled with people that care so passionately about the program, who understand its importance and want to invest in the next 25 years. I think students are thinking more about the critical role of learning our history, interrupting curricula, and really just investing in what it means to be a community that we think about, that we study, that we are active participants in building the history around too. So really, really amazing today to see such a full room. Yeah.
Why do you think the ASAM department has been such an important part of Penn? Why is it important to you?
The ASAM program is important to me just because of the way that it forces us to rethink what we know as history, as things that are worthy of being recorded and being taught. I didn't grow up having Asian American studies in my grade school curriculum. I did take courses as an undergrad at a different school. And so I know just how affirming and critical it was in my own leadership identity and development to explore histories that are just not reflected in traditional curriculum. So I think this program is just a reflection, it is a huge reflection of the passion of students and recognizing their investment to make Penn better by continuing to push, continuing to challenge, and continuing to rethink the way that we do education and what it means to be educated.
So what are your hopes for the future of ASAM as we look forward?
I hope that in the next 25 years that room is filling up Franklin Field. I hope to see more courses, more student leadership, continued advocacy, and just really that call to continue to do better and to continue to make more meaning of our experiences so that we can better be leaders outside of the campus as well.
Great. So could you start by introducing your name, your year, and what you studied at Penn, and what you currently do now?
Hi, my name is Seunghyun Chang. So I graduated 2018 from the college. I was an English major with a minor in Asian American Studies and Theater Arts. Right now, I am a script translator, also writer, performer, and I do a lot of producing on the side as well, but primarily in the field of entertainment, specifically TV and theater.
Yeah, so big question. How would you define true Asian American representation?
Wow, that is a difficult question. True Asian American representation. Well, true Asian American representation would incorporate not only what we see on the screen, on the page, but behind the machinery of production. I think we spoke about Asian Americans needing to take control of the modes of production. So who is in the writer's room? Who is directing? Who is in the casting office? Specifically for the field of entertainment. Because most of these places, the background is not filled with Asian Americans. It's not as diverse or represented in that sense, even though we are seeing an interest in Asian American content nowadays. So really true representation would mean the people who are creating, the people who are funding and marketing are also fully represented with Asian Americans as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you also served some time on UAB. Could you talk more about what you've observed through the evolution of the Asian American Studies program and what you think the future could hold?
Wow, another question to sit on. It's really great to just witness how much love and attachment that current students are having with Asian American Studies, because even when I was a freshman, the narrative was that, oh, this isn't going to provide me any financial incentive. I'm like, who wants to minor in Asian American Studies? That was literally what I said as a freshman. And to have emerged as a completely different person at the end of it is, I look upon it as a huge surprise in a way. But I see that current students nowadays, they don't have the same sentiment that I had as a freshman. It seems that freshmen and current students now already have an attachment, already see the importance of Asian American Studies in their lives at Penn. And that is great work that's been done. The fact that people value it. And I can only see that as we grow to, of course, have a major, have a department. Those are no longer just fantasies. I really thought a major was a fantasy. And to have heard from Korea that a major is in the works is, oh my gosh. That is amazing work. And really, the future of it seems much more positive than what it was when I had been a student. And that is really fruitful. That is really heartwarming. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know that the Asian American Studies program is mostly classes and professors, but it's also a community, right? So could you talk more about the value of the relationships that you formed through Asian American Studies program at Penn?
Well, the professors for me, it feels more than what it was like as a professor and a student per se. I feel like Dr. Khan, Dr. Ang are more like, I don't want to say brothers, but they're like alternative parents in a way. Because they've offered me so much career advice, but they've just been there to really dig through the shit of the industries and really the street knowledge that's necessary. I think we talked about it in the panel, but often what Asian American Studies, why it's so crucial is that it gives us a consciousness after college. It gives us a way to understand the racial indifference of people, and also the sheer amount of racism that occurs as professionals, as workers. And we often don't have the vocabulary to even tackle that. But from the mentors that I've acquired, there's a discourse, there's a space to talk about it. And that itself is the most valuable thing that has emerged. There are people I can talk to, and there are people who sit with it, and then we can strategize together.
Hi, my name is Lily. What's your name?
I'm Ben, chair of Penn's Asian Alumni Network.
Oh, that's awesome. What year did you graduate, and what did you study?
I was in Wharton. I graduated 2014.
How is it coming back to ASAM 7 years later?
It's been awesome. It's been really great reconnecting with the community. It's been such a great learning experience as well, kind of like having the opportunity to learn from Kathy Park Hong, from these different alumni about kind of bringing ways of learning our Asian American heritage and the history behind it, and kind of taking action around that.
How has it been transitioning from a student to now, with a little bit more distance to Penn, being part of the alumni network?
I love that there's a continuous community. So once I graduated, I was able to kind of have a community through UPenn and able to kind of continue that on. So I love that I'm able to kind of live in New York. I'm very close to Penn, but I'm able to have almost a micro community of Penn kind of in New York as well.
How have you seen ASAM grow since your time as an undergrad up until now as someone who's gone?
Yeah, I am very excited for the future of ASAM. I think we've had a lot of struggles kind of going in the past years with Grace Kao leaving, but the future is very bright. We have a lot of professors coming in, and I think that the prospect of a major and all that along the way is going to be very exciting.
What was your favorite memory with ASAM?
So I didn't participate actually in the ASAM community until after I graduated. So for me, I think a bit of my racial reckoning, a bit of my kind of understanding of my identity came a little bit later. And so what I've particularly loved about the ASAM community is that even though it took me a little longer, it's been fine. It's been kind of everyone's been warm, everyone's been accepting, and everyone's been so patient to kind of let me go at my pace.
Well, that's amazing that you've been able to reconnect with this community at Penn. I know that everyone is so welcoming here. Do you have any wishes for your future with ASAM? Do you want to engage more in any way?
So I would love to support ASAM and kind of keep it growing, and what I would love to kind of see where ASAM go forward is to have a greater impact on the total student body at large. Because when I was an undergrad, I was in Wharton, I didn't really see the value of something like Asian American Studies, and I think that in light of the current climate, in light of kind of the growth in the program, I think there's a huge opportunity for Penn to demonstrate that Asian American Studies is very applicable in all fields, and that people should really be valuing it.
Would you be willing to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Rupa Pillai. I'm a senior lecturer in the Asian American Studies program.
Thank you. And I was going to ask, what is the importance of studying Asian American studies as a discipline?
It is so important because you learn so much, right? Like the Asian American experience is a wonderful entry point into the history of the United States and also the history of the world because of the way that Asians move are so connected to key moments in history that if we focus more on what those experiences are, we get a fuller picture of how society has always been moving and how diverse our society is. But also another thing I love about Asian American Studies is it's interdisciplinary. So as someone who is trained as a cultural anthropologist and should just do cultural anthropology, Asian American Studies allows you to play with different methods and disciplines and really see that each discipline has a great way of viewing the world, and we learn so much by getting to see all these different methods at play. So I love that I'm getting to learn more about different types of social sciences through this job. It's really fun.
Thank you. I was also wondering, how has the opportunity to teach courses in Asian American Studies at Penn helped you to understand your identity?
I basically design all of the courses in terms of the stuff I wish I took in undergrad. The university I went to, University of Texas at Austin, did have Asian American Studies classes and did have an Asian American Studies resource center similar to Patch, but I didn't realize it. And so being able to teach this, I've been able to learn a little bit more about myself and then also to integrate things that I wish I had learned in undergrad that post my undergraduate career, I've learned through it. So the experiences that I've had in terms of thinking about my gender, my sexuality, but also thinking about my race, the tools that I wish I had post graduation are things that I try to integrate into the courses, so hopefully the mistakes I made, my students can avoid it. And I don't know if they will or not, but hopefully they will.
I was also wondering, how has the ASAM program evolved during your time at Penn, and do you have any hopes for it on its 25th anniversary?
Yeah, it's growing a whole lot. I think with us having more faculty and more support staff, we're able to offer more events. We're able to mentor better. So the creation of the ASAM's Fellows program is probably the biggest shift that I've seen in my short time here at Penn, and it's amazing to help students realize their research projects, build their research skills, help them learn how to present, and network with faculty that they might continue to work with outside of the fellowship into their next careers. So getting to see how undergraduates are pursuing more research is really interesting. And then also starting to see the different types of courses that we're starting to offer more consistently, which is really what we need as a program to grow. And the potential that we will not be a minor but be a major is a huge development that will be amazing to see what it might mean for us, and as well as the potentials of growing into graduate level resources and classes in the future.
I was also wondering, due to your involvement with curating the exhibit, is there any piece that has resonated strongly with you?
I think, so as someone who's the newest person in the department, I had no idea the deep history of Asian American Studies here at Penn. I just was like, oh yeah, so it got started in '96, that's it. But I didn't realize how long the struggle for this program has been and who are all the parties involved and how it was more than just creating this program, but starting to shift the conversation about how we study Asians in other disciplines and on campus, and also to fight for better support for Asian immigrant and Asian American students. So I think for me, getting to see this material and hearing from Minnie and Quay about what they were learning helped me to really see that we are more than just a program that does classes. We are a program that's invested in supporting and affirming Asian immigrant and Asian American students, but also how we are supporting other marginalized communities in on campus because we are all connected and we will all do better when we work together.
Would you be willing to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your what you studied and your year of graduation?
My name is Lewis. You see him, his pronouns. I graduated in the class of 2020, studied political science and health and societies, and minored in Asian American studies. And in that time, for my freshman spring all the way to my senior spring, I was on ASAM UAB and served as co-chair my final year.
Thank you. What would you say is the importance of studying ASAM as a discipline?
I think especially going through the education of like the K through 12 education, not necessarily learning about a lot of these different languages and histories and literature, stuff like that, I didn't necessarily know how to talk about a lot of these issues, and it was because of studying ASAM when I got here to Penn that I understood the experiences of the people who came before me, but also what I can incorporate into my own work and use for the future. And whether it be people who are Asian American and trying to learn more about themselves and their people, or for people who want to learn more and they may not identify as Asian Americans, I think it's equally as important for anybody to take classes in Asian American studies.
And how has the opportunity to take classes in Asian American studies helped you to understand your identity?
Yeah. I think the first class that I took was a class called Asian American Activism and Organizing, and it was through that class that in some of my more political and activism work on the outside of ASAM, I was able to bring that kind of work into, or what I learned in those classes into the work that I did outside of class, and that to me is like life-changing because it's shaped a lot of what I want to do in the future, but also helped me understand the nuts and bolts of people who have advocated for Asian Americans in the past and what I can learn from them, their literary works, and then also their methods of organizing and getting things done. And it's kind of put me down a path of wanting to do work with immigrant communities in the future. Yeah.
At your time at Penn, how have you witnessed the ASAM program and the UAB evolve, and do you have any hopes for the program on its 25th anniversary?
Yeah. I came in, freshman year. It was the year that Grace Cow left. It was the year that a lot of protests were happening about trying to get people to come to support Asian American studies, but also for the university itself to add more lecturers and professors. And through 2 years, that still didn't happen all that much. We got Dr. Pillai, which was incredible. So that was one growth, but there was still so much more that we could go to. So I guess my hopes for the future are seeing more Asian American Studies minors and people who are coming to the university to study ASAM, and then also having more support in terms of institutional professors and administrators who are there in our back corner, and they're there to add more classes to our registrar, so our little leaflet that says our courses for the semester maybe becomes back in front, and even more where you have like a whole portfolio of different classes. I would love to just see that growth happen, and I know that having a space now where back when I was a freshman and sophomore, we met in the ASAM office, which was Dr. Khan's room, and then a little office. So it was like 8 people on ASAM UAB couched on like 2 couches. And seeing that growth has already been encouraging, and I'm excited to see it grow even more.
How has your experience with ASAM during college shaped your work after college?
It's through classes where I learned about immigration laws and things like in Dr. Park's literature class, reading about the writings on Angel Island, and these things that shaped my interests then in immigration law. So I'm going to law school next year, and the hopes are to work with immigrant, low-income Asian American communities and provide those resources in the future. So everything that I will be applying, the foundation that I got was all from ASAM, and it's really shaped that kind of application of knowledge that I will have in the future.
Hi, would you be willing to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Erin O'Malley, and I'm class of 2021, and I served as an ASAM UAB co-chair from 2020 to 2021.
I was wondering, what is the importance of studying ASAM as a discipline?
I think for me, ASAM really gave me the language to be able to articulate some of the things I'd been feeling my entire life. And beyond that, I think it really offered me a really rich community of both mentors and peers that I still turn to today.
How has the opportunity to take ASAM courses at Penn helped you to understand your identity?
I think beyond sort of the texts that we read that were helpful in giving me the language that I mentioned, I think having people of different experiences within the Asian diaspora was really helpful to talk through both my own experiences and to understand theirs as well.
During your time at Penn, how has the ASAM program and the UAB evolved, and what are your hopes for ASAM on its 25th anniversary?
Yeah, I think even just seeing the ASAM UAB now, it seems like the ASAM UAB has really grown, which is something that's really exciting. And I think my hope for the future would be for present UAB members and UAB members in the future to keep holding on to the memories of the struggles that have been a part of the program's history, and to use those to inform their advocacy for the future.
My name's Lily. What's your name?
I'm Jennifer.
What year in school are you and what are you studying?
I'm a sophomore in the college. I'm studying sociology and doing minors in nutrition science and Asian American studies.
So what got you interested in the ASAM community?
I think going in terms of UAB at least, I had friends in it, so I just wanted to be with my friends and hang out with them, and so that's kind of why I joined UAB. And then that same semester that I got recruited for UAB, I also took an ASAM class, and then after that first class, I think I just was really interested in the different aspects of Asian American, the Asian American experience, the history, the literature, but then also the culture and the media and what Asian Americans in media and all of those different roles and dimensions of the Asian American identity. And so as a result, I have been taking more classes, and so now I'm pursuing the minor.
That's awesome. What have you been most proud of accomplishing while you've been on the ASAM UAB?
I think my most proud accomplishment is this 25th anniversary. I don't think anything can top what we've been doing, all the months of hard work and labor going towards this event, and the amount of coordination and teamwork and effort, seeing that all come together today, I think is really incredible, especially with with COVID and the pandemic, and things have been online. Seeing this come in person has been so rewarding, and then the fact that I was able to do this with my friends and build this event and celebrate that is really precious. And I think it's great that we're taking the moment to reflect. And I really like the theme this year of past, present, and future, because I think that's kind of where we really are at right now at this moment with the program.
What's your favorite ASAM moment been?
My favorite ASAM,
or memory moment?
Memory moment? Oh gosh. I mean, I think anytime we hang out, I think I most appreciate our dinner hangout. Anytime we do a dinner hangout, I feel no time has passed, even if I haven't seen this one person in a while, or I've only seen this person a few times. But when we all get together, it really feels like home, community, and family. And so I think I really appreciate those moments, and it feels no time has passed. And so I think I really appreciate that part of it.
That's great. So what are your hopes for ASAM and ASAM UAB going forward in the future?
I think the fact that the ASAM program has a UAB is a big indication of the support that the university has, because I believe laws also has a UAB, but other majors and minors don't really have a UAB, and I think that shows the historical lack of support that ASAM has had. And so my hope is UAB, the work we've been doing, the work that the UAB did 5 years ago, we're students now are able to get that, feel the reward from that work and labor with the new cluster hire, and then also the expansion of the number of classes. So I guess my hope for UAB is that we can, rather than fighting, the work that the UAB does from now on is growth of the program, diversifying our classes, bringing in people who represent and reflect the diverse nature of the Asian American identity, so that it includes more diverse perspectives. So really thinking about more growth rather than fighting and struggling to actually exist.
Could you introduce your name, your year, and what you studied at Penn and what you currently do now?
Sure. I'm Brian Redondo. I'm class of 2005. I majored in visual studies here, and I'm a documentary filmmaker mostly as an editor and sometimes as a director.
How would you define true Asian American representation?
Wow, that's not an easy question. I think true Asian American representation is really incumbent about knowing the challenges and also the joys that exist within the Asian American community and all of its different variations. The Pan-Asian American identity is constituted of lots of different ethnic groups with different histories, different cultures, and different, frankly, different experiences. And so to truly be representative of that is to embrace all of the different nuance that the Asian American umbrella encompasses.
Where do you see your role in supporting Asian American representation?
Oh, so as a filmmaker, I'm actively trying to highlight stories from kind of the margins of society, and you know, a lot of that pertains to specific Asian American communities, you know, and trying to put a spotlight on those stories and kind of add nuance to the American story overall. And yeah, so I'm doing that through film and TV. And then in the background, you know, as somebody in the industry, I'm also trying to bring more Asian American voices into the fold, bring other creators, bring in other people to support that work and to create that work, really, to give ourselves a platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any specific classes or experiences you had at Penn that are inspiring what you do now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you know, Dr. Grace Cowell's class here as Asian Americans or Asians in America is a sociology class, which was very helpful to contextualize the Asian American experience from a variety of different socio-political, economic factors, and looking at the roots of the community that contextualize my personal experience, my family's, people around me. And then also I want to point out Dr. Ichiro Azuma's course on American westward expansion into the Pacific, which is very much about, you know, manifest destiny and, you know, America moving into the West Coast and California, Hawaii, Guam, the Philippines. You know, all of these directly impacted Asian Americans, particularly my family who's from the Philippines, and, you know, really underpins a lot of what my own family's personal history. And so, you know, thinking about colonialism and imperialism in those terms and what it means to be, you know, in the U.S., where our country is still doing some of these things in places all over the world, and it also having an impact on American citizens. You know, that's something I think about all the time, and how, you know, I try to challenge those paradigms in the work that I'm doing. You know, I'm trying to subvert that, you know, colonialism, post-colonialism, and find a way to create a more equitable society after all of the things that have already happened in America's past.
Hi, can you please say your name, your grade, and what you're studying?
Yeah, I'm Claire. I'm a senior, and I'm currently studying history with minors in English and ASAM.
That's awesome. How have you said that your experience has been with ASAM with all your years here, and now that you're a senior?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
I was just saying, how has your experience been with ASAM throughout your years here, like now that you're a senior?
Yeah, I actually was thinking about this the other day. I think ASAM has been the most consistent, organization, or ASAM UAB has been the most consistent student organization I've been with throughout my time at Penn. I joined during my freshman spring, and that's also when I took my first ASAM classes. So I took 2 classes. I took Intro to Asian American Asian American history, and also there was a class taught at the time by someone named Daniel Wu, who was a PhD student at Berkeley, who was teaching a class on Afro-Asian relations. And I think these classes were really formative for me during my freshman year when I was having my own racial reckoning about my experiences as a Vietnamese person. Moving from San Jose, California to Philadelphia was a huge adjustment for me. And so very quickly finding home in the ASAM program has been something that I've really loved and cherished about it. Just like the community aspect of it and how I've been able to have these amazing mentors throughout my time at Penn, from Dr. Khan to Dr. Zuma to Dr. Pillai, and also just have met like some really amazing people and have really appreciated all of that love from my peers and my mentors and my professors and the community in the classes as well.
No, that's really amazing. So what's been your favorite part about being part of ASAM or even part of ASAM UAB?
Yeah, I think I said this already, but like definitely the community. So as like a Southeast Asian person, there's not that many of us at Penn, especially in undergrad, and like there were a few years where it happened to be all of the Southeast Asians, all of the Cambodians, I'm not Cambodian, I'm Vietnamese, but like all of the Southeast Asians were in the ASAM UAB. And Dr. Khan was able to get us tickets to go watch Cambodian Rock Band, which was a play that was off Broadway, New York City. And that was like one of the last things we did together as a UAB before the pandemic started. And just like I have just like little memories of that, just like little bits and nuggets of like community. There was one time we all went to someone's apartment and like surprised someone for their birthday, and it was just like super warm. And we also did like tarot readings, just like a lot of like really fun things. I think what people don't realize about ASAM is that it's so much more than just an academic program. It's a community, and like one that has really helped me during really, really difficult times. Like I was sharing during the panel, like last March was really hard. The announcement that Dr. Ng was resigning coincided with the Atlanta shooting and other major events in the Asian American community. And it was really, all of these things were really hard, but I felt held by the ASAM program, even though we weren't physically in person together. I felt like Dr. Khan was checking in on all of us. Dr. Khan was checking in on me and my co-chair Erin about how we were feeling and how we were processing things. And that felt really good, to feel like there were people that I could be around to talk to process these things that like not the average person who isn't Asian American or who doesn't have like critical vocabulary that Asian American studies provides you. Like it's really hard to talk to people without that vocabulary, without that experience about what one experiences when that much violence happens in your community. So that's something that I've really appreciated about my time in ASAM and what I love the most about the community. Yeah.
That's really awesome. So now that you're kind of like nearing the end of your relationship with ASAM as an undergraduate student, what do you think you're most proud of that you've been part of, or ASAM as a whole has been part of since your freshman year up until now, your senior year?
That's a really hard question. I think that this event has been really exciting. I think this is a hard question for me to answer because I feel like my time at Penn was very disconnected because of the pandemic. Like I was a sophomore when the pandemic started and we were all sent home. So I went from being an underclassman to being a senior, right? The jump from like being a sophomore to a senior in-person school was really weird for me. My entire junior year was online. This event has been really meaningful for me because I was like telling other folks that this is like the first like big event that I've been a part of or I've helped plan since the start of the pandemic. And it's been really beautiful to see everyone come together and to celebrate our program, knowing how much that community has held me throughout my time in college. And so it's like really cool to be like in this position now where I'm a senior, because when I was I love talking to underclassmen, because when I was an underclassman, the seniors in ASAM held me, and I like hope that I can do that for folks in our program in a similar fashion.
So now reflecting on the past, and then I've been so appreciative that I've been able to witness you and your present with your relationship with ASAM UAB. What are you hoping for the future for ASAM UAB after you take a step back?
I think for me, ASAM UAB has always consistently been one of the most diverse Asian American groups on campus. Like I said before, like a lot of Asian American spaces are dominated by East Asians or dominated by particular folks with particular experiences, and UAB has always been a place where people of all different experiences come together and really build this program. Like I think a lot of the times I think about how our ASAM program doesn't offer classes on Southeast Asian American experiences, like the refugee experience, and that's not to the fault of the program, it's to the fault of the university for not really funding the program and allowing it to grow in that way. But it's always been the diversity of the UAB that's brought those things to life within our program, and I would like to see the UAB continue on that work of coloring what being Asian American truly means and filling in more of those gaps that like aren't really there, and just like continuing to serve as like a really important community for us to hold each other during times of joy, times of crisis, times of everything. I think it's been a really invaluable community for me, and I hope that people continue to find that community in the UAB after I'm gone.
Hi, my name is Lily. What's your name?
Hi, Lily. My name is Ray Liu.
What year did you graduate from Penn and what did you study?
I'm college, class of 2004, studied economics and psychology.
Wow. How does it feel coming back now for ASAM's 25th anniversary?
Incredible. Like the campus, first of all, is completely different than anything I had seen back in the day, and really glad just to see how strong the program's going. We were around when we were trying to get Dr. Grace Cow her tenureship. So that was like, the big battle back then, and now seeing that, you guys are expanding, it's really, really exciting.
Yeah. What's your favorite part been, like watching ASAM grow through the years?
I think it's really been like, staying connected with a lot of the people. I've made some really close friends in a lot of the activities I did back when I was at Penn, and it's cool coming back here with them all these years later. Seeing some familiar faces. I was just talking with Kusum from Patch out there, and it's so nice to, get to talk with her, and also, getting to, meet Dr. Eng, who wasn't there during my time, or Fariha Khan, who I met through the James Bristol Society, and it's just been, awesome, staying connected with something that, I graduated from so many years ago.
What's been your favorite memory or moment with ASAM?
With ASAM? I'm trying to think. God, it was so many years ago that I'm embarrassed. Really, I think I had one professor, Srilata Ganguly, who was also an advisor in the college office, who had invited us to her house, and also she gave us a lot of freedom in terms of what we wanted to write about for our thesis. I was talking about Asian Americans in entertainment back when, and it's a completely different landscape now than it was back then, and for me, there was very little to work with back in the day, but I loved watching like Simpsons episodes and movies, and writing about that, and also getting a nice relationship going with Professor Ganguly.
So what are your hopes for ASAM in the future? What do you look forward to?
I am so excited about the fact that this will actually be a major. I think that is incredible, and for this to be the biggest ASAM department or program, I don't know, department hopefully, but program on the East Coast, and biggest in the Ivies. Love that.
Could you introduce your name, your year, and what you studied at Penn, and what you currently do now?
Hi, I'm Shaina, she, her pronouns. I graduated the class of 2021, and I studied international relations with a focus on the Islamic world and South Asian studies, and a minor in consumer psychology. And I'm the co-founder and CMO of Juve Consulting, which is a Gen Z marketing company.
Yeah. How do you see the importance of things like ethnic studies and Asian American studies being reflected in the private sector?
Yeah. I mean, I think even when you think about marketing, it's almost like an icky word of sorts. It feels really corporate, but marketing, when it comes down to it, is diluted down to being storytelling. And so much of the way that we're thinking about representation and equity and inclusion is about centering voices that reflect the experiences of the world around us. And Gen Z is the most diverse generation in human history. We're not a monolith. We're a cohort that people are having to reckon with when it comes to business and the private sector, because accountability leads to cancel culture, right? And as these systems have been perpetuated for years with systemic inequities, I think now we're reaching a point where those things are just not going to be able to continue because of the massive power that young people have, and the private sector being changed by that, right? Like, you're going to be hiring more and more young talent. You're going to be trying to retain that young talent. That's a big question and for businesses and corporations. And I think being able to attract diverse talent includes Asian American narratives, and that in part comes from us understanding our own histories, right? But simultaneously empowering ourselves to want to amplify our voices and our communities to be in spaces that already have power.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of your goals for the future of diversity in business, and what are some steps we can take to get there?
Well, that's a big question. I would say diversity and social impact and purpose, I think, have become a lot of buzzwords in the business world. So to me, it's not about a matter of diversity, it's a matter of representation, right? You want to walk into a boardroom and feel like it reflects the world around you. It should reflect the people that you spend time and company with. And I think the first point of that is around representation. I think the second point is if we want to build out stories, right, that are centering diverse voices, that means diverse people have to be creating those narratives, right? You have to believe people that are proximate to their lived experiences are the ones that you're relying on. So I think people should be hiring VPs to be younger folks and diverse folks, and taking a bet on your 22, 23-year-old new hires, because they understand how the world works in a digital sense, in a social sense, and even in a political and social justice sense, because we don't speculate about youth culture, we're living youth culture, right? So I think those are some of the things that fundamentally have to shift in terms of our psyche and the conversations we're doing. And then backing capital and policy behind the things that we want to see happen, right? Cap tables changing, board structures changing, a move where we're not thinking about P&L and business in a sense of profit, right? But instead thinking about purpose first. But I think all of that also comes from changes in policy as well as reforms to the way that we think about board structures and corporate governance in general.
Yeah, so taking that back to Asian American studies a little bit, what would you say to students who maybe aren't that familiar with Asian American studies? What are the more practical or professional values of taking an Asian American studies course?
History is known to repeat itself and be cyclical, and I think the issues that we see even in a social justice context, right, are ones that generations prior to us have also experienced. And I think what's really unique about our generation or our cohort is that every generation has pushed the status quo. There's no question about that, but social media and technology has now allowed us to enable action unlike ever before, right? Think about Time's Up, think about March for Our Lives, Black Lives Matter movements, all of these mobilized movements started on Twitter, right? And there's so much power that we have with the tools that we've been given, so the onus and responsibility comes on us to understand our history, right? That there's more to your narrative than the Chinese Exclusion Act or narratives that we've been propagated for so long, when Asian American history is so diverse and so complicated and not things that we have been grown up, right, with access to. So there's a lot of power and knowledge, and being able to understand our own history is really powerful, so that when instances of violence or instances of systemic inequities and racism come about, we have a much better grasp of how to tackle those issues in a way that's much more articulate and hyper-focused, rather than distancing ourselves from tough, difficult conversations.
Hi, I'm Lily. Can you please say your name?
Sure, I'm Karu Kozuma.
So what has your relationship been with the ASAM department?
Specifically, I taught 2 semesters. I was teaching Asian American activism and organizing in 2016 and 2017. So that's been my connection to ASAM in coursework. But my connection has been really just getting to know the people from Faria to Joe to Ichiro and all the students. So it's been just a wonderful connection and a home for me in many ways working here at Penn.
It's such an amazing community. So how have you seen it grow over the past 25 years?
You've seen it grow over numbers. I think we've seen it grow in just layers of analysis that I think 25 years ago you would see students maybe look at things one way, and then now, even today when you saw the format of the programs, the alumni coming back, just what they bring to the table, seeing multiple dimensions and multiple perspectives for any one issue has been amazing to see how that's just grown and increased over the years. And that says a lot about probably what they learn in classes and what they learn outside of classes here at Penn.
Yeah, so what's your favorite way to interact with the ASAM programs? Because it seems like you're really involved.
Favorite way is just to support them, support students who may have questions about their own development, their own needs and support, and also just checking in on how they're doing. But then the other way I would say is just learning from them, learning from the faculty, learning from the students, learning from the alumni, from the different programs, from the classes. I'm 46, and I'm still learning about my own identity. I'm learning about what it means to be Japanese American, and the gift that I get from ASAM is because they contribute to my own growth and development.
So how have you seen a shift with the way that the students interact with ASAM and the school Penn itself over the past 25 years?
I think the connections are deeper now, and I think they see that this is a a thread that's going to be part of Penn like anything else. And it's not just going to be something that may be fleeting or may be temporary, that it is actually at the core. So when you have that level of connection, I think people have a bigger sense of ownership, home, and hopefully support. And so that's the thing that I've seen over the years from my time here at Penn, is to see how ASAM has grown that way.
What are you hoping for the most for ASAM's future?
I hope for people to meet good people and learn about each other. And as they learn about each other, they'll learn more about themselves. There's going to be a lot of different things I could hope for, but that's the one thing I really do hope, that people can stay connected and they'll continue to create a larger family for themselves.
Hello, my name is Lily. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Paulo Bautista. I graduated from Penn class of 2014. I'm currently also on the national board for the University of Pennsylvania Asian Alumni Network.
How have you seen ASAM grow over the past 25 years, or since you were interacting with them as an undergrad?
Yeah, so funny story. I actually didn't really take an ASAM class when I was at Penn. I was really involved in the extracurriculars of Asian American stuff on campus through PATS, APA, Poly. I was involved in all the PATS things. I probably spent more time sleeping in PATS than I did in my classrooms. Not the best advice if you want to graduate with a good GPA, but I still feel like I learned a lot of really valuable things just from being involved in the community in general. Now, obviously ASAM was kind of on the periphery, but I just never found time in my schedule, which is honestly the biggest regret I have as a Penn alum. I really wish there was a way for me to go back and either take an ASAM class, or even now, one hope I would have would be maybe in the future, ASAM or Penn offers maybe like a online class or online certificate for Asian American Studies for alumni to take. So I would definitely be all over that. Now, that being said, after I graduated, I got involved in UPenn, and from there, my involvement with, interacting with ASAM, with Faria, kind of like a lot of the issues around ASAM, kind of intersected with what UPenn was doing, right? When, 2017, when there was the whole crisis with Dr. Kao leaving, UPenn was really involved in trying to, promote petitions and so on in order to get, support. Similarly, this past year when Dr. Eng was leaving, we kind of, mobilized in the same way to really advocate as alumni, giving our voice to student needs. Like, hey, this is something as alumni that we care about, and letting the university know that it's not just the students, it's this whole alumni community. So, now being here at the 25th anniversary, I mean, with UPenn, I also helped work on a podcast for UPenn for the ASAM program, and being able to see just a little extended history of even beyond 25 years, all the work that went into it for a decade, solid decade before ASAM even started as a formal program. Talking to the alumni about that really showed that, we're only here for 4 years at Penn. I was only here for 4 years at Penn, but seeing that long continuity was really eye-opening, that, to be part of something bigger than myself.
That's amazing. So in all your time, and you've spent a lot of time with ASAM then and now, what's been your favorite memory?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it was working on that UPenn, that podcast I worked on, talking to like people, just to really get their perspective and all these cool insights and hear all these stories of how people who are so scrappy, right? Like when we're undergraduates, we feel that what we're doing matters to the world, right? But there's always, I also felt when I was an undergrad, there's a small sense in the back of my head, like, does this really matter? Will this all just like disappear after I graduate, right? Will it continue on? Seeing that continuity really like was my favorite part of seeing like, these people, some people, right? Like they had worked so hard on ASAM stuff when they were at Penn, and then they graduate, they offer their careers, they don't really think about ASAM for 10, 20 years sometimes. I reach out to them, they're like, oh yeah, how did that ASAM thing go? And hearing them feel so impressed that ASAM is continuing on, that's probably my favorite reaction I've gotten, in being involved in ASAM.
Awesome. So do you have any words of advice to people who are undergrads at Penn or people leaving Penn with how to continue to interact with ASAM?
Yeah, I mean, just broadly advice, not even just about ASAM in general. I think, like Peter Van Doe, director of PATS, when I was at Penn, he gave me this advice that, everything's going to work out in the end, right? This is, for me at the time, was in the context of like running for some election, for some board or whatever, like at Penn. And, again, when we're at undergrad, that feels so important. But at the end, everything will work out, right? I graduated Penn without having a plan, really having a job lined up. And then I ended up getting something through my pen connections and so on, and now even afterwards, everything is working out for me, more or less, right, as best as they can be. I'm where I think I'm meant to be, and I think that's the same way where, if you're meant to be involved in ASAM after graduation, so I think, many people who are currently involved will probably in some capacity stay involved afterwards. Hopefully not as much as in crisis in the future, but just like, just staying involved, giving back to the program, staying involved on alumni panels and whatnot. I think there's always going to be an opportunity, and Penn and PATS and ASAM will always have their arms open to welcome you back in. And it's always easy, and again, it'll always work out. No need to worry, no need to stress. You will find a way through whatever busyness you have in life. Comes in phases, maybe sometimes you're on, sometimes you're off. You'll find a way if it means important to you, and I'm sure for many people it does.
So, final thoughts. What are your future hopes for ASAM? How do you wish to see them grow even more in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned, I hope that, there's more alumni engagement. Maybe you can have like an alumni certificate program or online class. I'd love to see that. I'm excited to hear about the new hires coming out. I'd love to see, more integration of, ASAM into the Philadelphia community and more broader. I really, one of the things, in this past year or so, UPenn has actually also worked with other alumni groups from other universities in the Ivy Leagues about their struggles for Asian American studies, and working together with them, I'd love to see ASAM not just be the only one. I'd love to see ASAM at Penn, not even lead the way, because there are other programs out there, but working collaboratively with other programs to really push the field of Asian American studies across the East Coast and across the nation, frankly speaking. I really think that's just something that ASAM and Penn's ASAM program has the power to do, and really looking forward. Congratulations to 25 years so far, and here's to 25 more years more.
Hi, Professor Boucher. Would you be willing to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Rob Busher, and I'm mixed race Japanese American, been teaching here at Penn since 2017.
Can you talk a little bit about what the importance of Asian American studies as a field?
So in terms of Asian American studies as a field, I mean, what can we say that hasn't already been said? It's an exploration of identity, it's a political awakening, it's a revolution happening in real time across generations, across time periods of individuals from both our Asian American and Pacific Islander diaspora and so many other communities of color rising in solidarity to challenge the status quo of white supremacy in the many areas and disciplines that we offer here. And I think most importantly for the students on Penn's campus, it's sometimes that first moment of awakening in terms of racial and political identity.
How has the opportunity of teaching Asian American studies helped you to understand your identity?
Yeah, so as a mixed race Japanese American, I think my life has been kind of exploration of identity in general, trying to understand where my place is between the communities that I am represented within. Teaching, I think, is another question altogether, because it's an old adage, but I think I learn as much from the students as they learn from me, and it's through the constant discussion and exploration in class discussions that we're able to better understand ourselves as teachers. And I've had conversations with my colleagues in the department. We all share that kind of sentiment, that every semester in every class we get this incredible experience of understanding ourselves better and reframing the work that we do and whatever our discipline is from the eyes of the students who may be learning about it for the first time, but also challenging some of the perspectives that we may have held for a long period of time based on our own personal experiences and the blind spots that we come to it with.
In your time teaching at Penn, how have you witnessed the evolution of the Asian American Studies program, and do you have any hopes for the future on its 25th anniversary?
You know, I think I've been here for just 5 years, so I came in right at the start of the 20th anniversary, and it's been a joy, really, to witness what was a very tumultuous time period. It was the year that Trump took office. It was the year that Dr. Grace Kao moved to Yale. And in that time, it's felt like a constant struggle in many ways. At certain times, we weren't sure which way that this department was going to go, but through the tireless advocacy of my colleagues, particularly Dr. Faria Khan, but also everyone on the undergraduate advisory board, as well as the Penn student alumni from the Asian American Student Coalition, the folks at Patch. I mean, there's just been countless advocates and collaborators that have helped this program continue to grow, continue to thrive. And I think despite the incredible difficulties that we've seen as a community and as a nation during the pandemic, the only silver lining that I see in that is that among and amid the anti-Asian hate crimes and other incidents that we're witnessing, we are seeing some recognition within the broader discourse of the American public, really for the first time in my lifetime, I feel, that we are starting to have on a daily basis conversations around race and ethnicity that do also include the Asian American and Pacific Islander diasporas.
Would you be willing to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Jo Park. I'm a professor in the English department, and I'm in the Asian American Studies program.
What would you say is the importance of Asian American studies as a discipline?
It's a really important field. It's a growing field, and one thing I like to emphasize is that it is a field. It's really important because it's interdisciplinary. It's a way in which different fields come together around Asian American experience, expression, history. And so for our students, I think they actually get a kind of expertise from this field that is kind of multidisciplinary, and it's a rapidly growing field, and it's also a field that's really it's student-centered learning, and it's something that students ask for, and the students learn in a way that's so active in our field. So I think it's really important. I also like to say that our classrooms are kind of like the front lines of what we're dealing with in this country with anti-Asian racism. So, I mean, I think sometimes there can be a tension between activism and the academy, but I see the space of the classroom as a place in which we think through questions of solidarity, questions of repression. So it's an incredibly important program.
I was also wondering, how has the opportunity to teach courses in Asian American studies helped you understand your identity?
It's been huge, actually. I will say, I'm really old, but it's not like I took Asian American courses when I was in college. I did have a class that kind of touched on it. And even in graduate school, that wasn't what I pursued. I was going in to study poetry. But gradually, it became clear to me that how we read American poetry is so inflected by U.S. relationships abroad, and how Asian Americans are kind of products of this American imperial adventure, and the kind of expression that we read registers that history. And so when I teach my courses, it's kind of like a cliche that we learn from our students, but that's really true in Asian American studies, because there's a range of experience that's only now being captured, and it's still not captured. And I think the space of the classroom is a space in which I think like many of my students, they feel free in my classes to kind of share some of their experiences, but also their responses to the readings. And I'm even learning some of the limitations of what I consider the canon of Asian American studies. Some of that stuff isn't speaking to my students. And so that's something that I'm learning too.
I was also wondering, over your time at Penn, how has the ASAM program evolved, and do you have any hopes and dreams for the program on its 25th anniversary?
Oh, lots of hopes and dreams, and it's it's a really exciting time. We're doing some hiring, which has been unheard of for a very long time, but this is a moment. The country is waking up, or has woken up, and this is a moment that we have to seize. It's a moment of growth for us. So at the same time, it's been a very, very hard time. It's a really exciting time for us, and I see our students galvanizing, particularly our alumni galvanizing, and I think the program, I think, is realizing there are opportunities that I think we needed to do more to connect, and so it's wonderful. So I think we're growing kind of in every dimension right now. We're connecting more to our alums, we're kind of growing our office, we're growing our courses, we're growing, the student interest on campus is growing, so it's a great time.